What have I done? The experiment was supposed to be adding audio after drawing without talking. So this is the visual part of this video is me drawing at some point without talking, and now I'm also recording the audio after the fact. And the problem with this is that it takes twice as much time than a regular drawing and talking session would. And also it just feels a little off. The focus is not quite right. It's weird to kind of look at my hand drawing on paper kind of retroactively. But I thought I could try this because maybe it will... I don't want to say that it will improve things, but it will change things in some way. And I like to switch things up a little bit sometimes because it's just more interesting to play around with stuff. And having like different unexpected results, what Bob Ross called happy accidents. And sometimes you just need to switch one little thing to get a very interesting result. And there are some examples in art, in music, when just kind of trying to adapt to an unusual situation created very interesting results. Like, let's say you're in a band and your drummer just injured the foot and cannot use the big kick drum, and the only option is to use the hand drums, and then it results in a very interesting sound. And then lo and behold, you have a band that has very unique rhythm in its songs, and just got rid of the kick drum altogether long after the drummer recovered. And I think it's the actual story from a band, a Polish punk band. The drummer didn't really get hurt. It was more like the drummer was more like a hobbyist. He didn't know how to play drums really, and he kind of self-taught how to drum and just didn't bother to learn the kick drum and just used the hand drum. It was almost like playing bongos, and it worked out well because punk rock is very simple. So it was a Polish band called Siekiera, which means the axe. Very stripped down, very almost like primitive sound, badly recorded, but it really does work with bad equipment, and that really is reflecting the nature of that art form. So yeah, we also the other trap that I set for my own self was that I named the first part of the video and already published it. I titled it "Let's Talk About Death." No, it was called "Do You Fear Death?" And it's just I named it this way because at some point in the first part of the video I talked about passing and dying and the death of consciousness, the difference between dying and being dead, and what it means to lose someone, and why I don't find any comfort in people telling me that my deceased relative is now a cloud or a flower. This doesn't mean anything to me. I look out the window now, I see some dragonflies catching mosquitoes, and I'm like, which one is my grandma? Maybe my grandma is a mosquito. So like, I don't have the I feel like I lost their unique personality and the essence of who they were. I don't know, a lot of the funerary rituals, or the way we talk about our deceased relatives, is not really for them. When we honor the dead, but the dead don't care. They're dead. So if in any way you honor the dead, they're dead. So they don't really see how you honor them. It's mostly for the living. It's for our own selves. The way we honor our dead is to create meaning for ourselves, to honor their lives. We never really honor someone's death. We honor the past, who they were. So like kind of like this idea of bringing gifts to the gravestones. Like a relative of mine passed away. She always loved blueberries. She always foraged during the blueberry season. She would spend all day picking blueberries. It was very meditative for her. And she would bake pies out of the blueberries she collected. So after she died, I brought a bunch of blueberries to put on her grave. And I feel like it could be a tradition during the blueberry season to bring her some blueberries. I mean, obviously the blueberries will dry out and birds will eat them, but the very act of gifting our deceased relatives with things that had meaning to them gives meaning to our own existence. So, but it's sort of, I can continue the discussion, talk about death, but I prefer these talks to develop on their own without forcing it, and it goes the same way in terms of drawing. The drawing also develops on its own. It dictates the way it wants to unfold with my very minimal help, and I feel like I also like my talking to reflect that. So like very open-ended, open-minded process on both fronts, talking and drawing. Since I know how much time this footage is, it's about less than 40 minutes. I'm just going to keep looking at it and talking, and then when it's over, then I'll be done talking. And I will probably do nothing to edit my audio, nor to edit my drawing. I just removed a very tiny weird crackling sounds that last a split of a second, so you might see that the drawing footage skips this just a tiny bit. It's just kind of distracting. It was distracting to have these crackling sounds like this one here, and I might also pause the video because I might get interrupted. I mean, not the video, the audio. So like right now I got slightly interrupted. I paused it and now I resumed it. No big deal. But where were we? That's the problem with interruptions. So yeah, I don't know what it will result in. I think a lot of artists that post their videos the step-by-step tutorials or just footage of the process. Use commentary afterwards to kind of better focus while they know exactly what's going to happen. Now they can focus better on commenting on those steps. But the interesting thing is that when I was drawing this, I was also having my own thoughts, which I didn't articulate out loud, just thinking about stuff. And the interesting thing about memory is that if you are able to anchor your memories to a specific visual cue, like drawing this shape that I'm drawing right now, I can almost recall what I was thinking about at the moment of drawing it. And what's interesting is that even when I look at my very old illustrations from like years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, provided I have listened to some audio, like an audiobook or a radio show during the drawing, I can recall exactly what I was listening to while drawing these illustrations. So for example, right now here, I might be able to recall what was on my mind when I was drawing this particular part. But sometimes it's not so obvious. So, like, I kind of thought I had it, and now when I was talking about it, I forgot what it was. So it's very kind of like you need a lot of focus to be able to recall what you were thinking about. So it will come back to me. Meanwhile, I'm just going to rumble on. And the cool thing about having the visual cue, like sketching, in front of me is that if I run out of things to talk about from memory or from basically my talking about my philosophies, I can just resort to commenting on what I'm drawing, why I'm drawing it, why I'm using this sort of pattern. I tend to use kind of a half moon pattern, or like a curly coil pattern that fills up the paper, rather than using cross-hatched lines. It's kind of nice creating this kind of very soft gradient, and also it's easier for me to control the gradient and also the pressure, because some of the areas that I'm drawing are drawn very lightly, almost barely touching the paper. So like that's one of the things that occurred to me when I was delving more into the pencil drawing, is that there's so many levels of pressure and nuance in how you apply pressure that I didn't even realize. I used to think that using a pencil is just, you just press it against the paper and that's it. But there's so many different levels of pressure, from barely any pressure resulting in very soft lines, to medium pressure and then strong pressure and things, everything in between. And that just helps you create very rich spectrum of tones and gradients. Especially gradients are kind of difficult because you have to really control the pressure of your pencil. So yeah, I'm still trying to think about what was on my mind when I drew this part. And I remember it was something super clever, and I can't really recall what it is. Alright, I'm just going to tell you about my day. Today is my birthday, actually. I was born 51 years ago on Wednesday, although today is Thursday. I think Wednesday was last year, so my birthday was exactly to the day. And the thing about me is that I really don't like to celebrate my birthday in the traditional way. I don't want to make a big stink about it, make it kind of like a loud celebration. I don't want to involve people in it, and I always appreciate people checking in and wishing me happy birthday, but I kind of realized that if I throw a party, I want the party to be just because, or without occasion. Just the same goes for gifting. Like Christmas or birthday is not the only time you can gift people things, and most often when the gift is given on cue or on a certain date, it's not very thoughtful gift, because I have to think very quickly about what would your loved ones want as a present, and then randomly on a regular day you kind of think of something that relates to what they enjoy, what they are like, and then you're able to buy them a perfect present. It's not their birthday, it's not Christmas, but who knows, it's so those dates are there to kind of remind us that there are people around us, and to call them up in case we forget. But like, if someone forgot about my birthday, it's not a big deal, as long as they remember about me on any other day. Because sometimes you might have someone remember your birthday. Like, there are some people that wish me happy birthday, but I don't hear from them other than that. So I hear from them every year, happy birthday, and then they're gone, touch and go. So like, I feel like while those dates and boxes in our calendars are helpful, they're not the only measure of how we coexist with others. So yeah, I don't like birthdays. I'm not really into celebrating holidays or Christmas. It's just, I don't know, it feels forced. And there's a lot of stress also involved. I always see how people are very stressed when there's some kind of holiday approaching, and it just feels like it defeats the purpose of festivity, of celebration. So like, my birthday is very simple. I went to kind of a nature setting for a few days, forest, lake. The weather is really nice. This is the phone. I decided not to edit it out. This is the phone ring of my spouse. She has this phone ring. I think she's had it for years, since that song was kind of discovered on YouTube. It's the Russian singer from the 70s, I think. The song is called Happy to Be Home. And it's a Soviet artist. I forgot his name. And I bet many people saw this video. It's just a very kind of cheerful person singing only tra-la-la, but like without any lyrics, and with kind of like very well-trained tenor voice. But it's just ridiculous how he smiles, but his smile is almost like a mask. It's cheerful, but also it's kind of scary, because in Soviet Union, that was kind of emblematic of culture, where it was safer not to have any lyrics in your song because the censorship was so severe that any sort of combination of words could result in being punished, even if you didn't mean it. Like, this, what you said here doesn't align with the official philosophy of the People's Party, so it's just safer to just sing tra-la-la, and that's basically what happened in those regimes. The culture is actually very interesting because a lot of the elements of culture, especially culture that involves words like movies and music, develop these very subtle ways of hiding content or messages that would fly past the heads of the censors, and many songs in Poland during the communism seemed very light, but it's because the artist found a way to use these very light lyrics, like a song about chocolate, how awesome chocolate is, but they managed to kind of hide some sort of hidden message. Even like singing about chocolate in the People's Republic of Poland was controversial because of shortages. We didn't really have access to chocolate. The closest thing to chocolate we got was a so-called produkt czekoladopodobny, which means a chocolate-like product, and it was just some kind of gooey substance that resembled Play-Doh, except Play-Doh sometimes tastes better than that thing, and sometimes that thing would make me sick. So there was no real access to chocolate. So like singing about chocolate was already controversial, and a lot of movie directors were able to hide secret messages in their scenes, in their dialogues, and the advantage was that the people who were the party officials and people who were hired by party officials to censor, to check for suspicious content, were just not the sharpest tools in the box. They were just dumb, and so they wouldn't really be able to detect any sort of problematic nuance. And because many of the artists were highly intelligent, they would be able to communicate with their audiences through this encoded language. So I wish I could think of some examples of it from the top of my head, but I can't. So what else have I been up to? I have been, once in a while I get really engrossed within certain content on the internet, like YouTube channel, that I end up binging on. And then I think last time I was talking about the Corridor Crew and their videos about special effects and AI, slope, and CGI. And now I kind of got bored of it. And now my new binge-worthy YouTube channel is Jesse Enkamp. He's a black belt in karate, and he's traveling the world and speaking to different martial art experts. And some of it is very interesting, and some of these characters are just very charismatic, and just I'm hooked. the way they talk about their discipline, a lot of it it really aligns with my own values, but a lot of it is also kind of just baloney, a lot of woo-woo in it, and some things are half and half. The old martial arts master talking about mastering the skills, and the funny thing is that a lot of these lessons that they give us happen to be contradict each other. So like one expert will tell you to activate your hips when you fight, while the other expert says activating your hips is for dummies, and you should just keep your hips fixed. And then one will tell you that footwork is the most important part, and then the other would tell you that you're just jumping around like a weirdo. So like it's like I always found it in anything I learned that many teachers would have different style of learning, and they would try to teach you their own philosophy, even if it contradicts other teachers. And since there's really no one good way, you're kind of lost in the middle. And I think it's kind of up to you to find your own way. So that's kind of, I feel like it took me a long time to just learn things, but also learn about learning. When you learn things, try to use some of your skepticism, and also if you happen to have two teachers that contradict each other, just draw your own conclusion. Maybe choose one of those views, or maybe try to come up with some common denominator for those two. So like, and some of these martial art experts are very intense, very charismatic, like the Shaolin master, who also wrote books, and he's kind of a rock star all over social media, talking about focus and being your best self. And he's almost like, I feel like he's too intense for me. Like sometimes I wish people relaxed more, not be always like tense and intense, and just applying this philosophy of hardcore everywhere, over everything you do. Even when you rest, you have to be hardcore about it. It's very intense, and I kind of want to relax about stuff like that. And I think the line that I really enjoyed, I kind of subscribed to one of his lines, is that you should not try to perfect your martial art, but you should strive to perfect yourself through the means of learning a martial art. And I really like that quote, and it almost feels like it really helped me put into words something that I've been mulling over for a long time. It's not really what you do, it's not really your art form or your disciplines that you're engaging in, because the art form is an inanimate thing. It's a result of your efforts. It's how it develops you as a person that matters. So in case of the drawing, I feel like the drawing is a record of my own journey of self-improvement. So like my next drawing might be better or worse than this, but overall the curve will tend to go towards improving whatever I mean by skill. And in this case, I feel like the skill is just focus and patience. Like in this case, I remember finishing this particular drawing. I struggled with maintaining focus on leaving my line, while at the same time making sure that I'm sitting straight, that my feet are right under my knees, and my hand that doesn't draw rests on the table. And I kept finding myself twitching and twisting, and my feet started getting under my chair, and that kind of promoted much worse posture. The posture needs to be, especially when it comes to kind of durational activities like this, posture is everything. If you are sitting even in a slightly crooked way for an extended period of time, it will introduce the occupational hazard of having an imbalance in your muscles. So yeah, I like this quote because it treats the discipline as a tool rather than the goal in itself. The discipline is a tool, is a means to a goal, and the goal is to just perfect yourself, whatever it means. There are some measurable ways to discern whether something helped you improve, and in case of art, it's a little bit more nebulous. Art is not as obvious as, say, martial art of running. If you are a great runner, obviously, you can look at it in various ways also, because being a good runner doesn't always mean being fast. It can also mean being able to run for longer distance. In terms of endurance, you can be a better runner than a sprinter. Sprinter is the faster one. And then you can also be a good runner in terms of your technique. Someone, might developed a very almost beautiful dance-like gait of running, and it doesn't matter how fast they are. Whenever someone looks at their running form, they will be marveling over how graceful it looks. So are you a good runner in this way? Are you a good runner because you are just fast? And of course, the official measure of a good runner is, have you won a race? If yes, then you are the best runner. If no, then you are not the good runner. So yeah, even in running, there are some nuances that make you pause and think about what does it mean to be good at something. In martial arts, the same thing applies. It's, if you are a good fighter, then obviously you will win fights, right? But you can be a good fighter in other ways. How graceful your movements are, or how fast you are, or are you able to lose the fight and draw the right conclusion from the loss, or are you full of ego? Obviously there are certain way we measure our success that are very obvious. In art, if you're famous, you have a lot of art awards, a lot of following, and you can sell your art for large prices, then obviously you are considered successful and good artist. But what about other things? How true are you to your craft? Or is your art reflecting your true self? Is looking at your art similar to looking at yourself in the mirror, or are you pretending to be someone else? And that feels like it's going to be one of the final thoughts, because our drawing is drawing to a close. I think I'm about to put the pencil away. So any last thoughts? I don't know. I still forgot what I was thinking about while drawing. Maybe it will come to me and I will put it in the description. But I might still record another session of audio. I think it went well. Better than I thought. It almost felt like I was drawing. Just maybe I was slightly more focused on speaking, because I didn't have to use my brain too much on that split attention between drawing and talking. So I think I'm just going over some areas that I feel like could use some more contrast, and I could just do that endlessly forever until the drawing is totally transformed into something else. But I think this is going to be almost the end. 30 seconds left. All right, thank you. That's it.